Have you ever wondered how a sheep's wool ends up becoming a soft, warm and elegant garment? Every year, millions of sheep are sheared in different parts of the world to obtain one of the most valued natural fibers, wool. Behind every blanket, scarf or coat lies a fascinating process that combines tradition, precision and technology. We'll travel to New Zealand, one of the world's largest wool producers, to discover step by step how a simple fleece is transformed into a fine, clean and durable fabric, ready to keep us warm on the coldest days of the year. The process begins by gathering the sheep into special pens. Before starting, the workers check the health status of each animal and group them according to the color and quality of their wool. Then the professional shearers come into action, people with impressive skill who use electric machines designed to cut the wool without hurting the animal. The goal is to obtain long, clean, continuous fibers that will then be transformed into soft and resistant fabrics. An experienced shearer can shear up to 250 sheep in a single day, spending between 1 and 2 minutes on each one. The secret lies in the way he holds the animal, keeping it relaxed and comfortable, which facilitates the cutting and prevents sudden movements. In New Zealand, for example, shearing always begins with the wool on the belly, which is usually shorter and has some dirt on it. That part is separated because it has less commercial value. Next, the worker continues with the wool from the back and sides, where the whitest, cleanest and most valuable material is obtained. During the process, what is known as the long pass is performed, a continuous cut that runs along the entire spine of the animal. Finally, the face area is carefully cleaned, especially near the eyes and ears, to avoid what is called wool blindness, which occurs when the fleece partially covers the sheep's vision. When he finishes one, the shearer immediately moves on to the next, repeating the task hundreds of times a day. For each sheep sheared, you can earn about $2, and by the end of the day you will have generated piles of fleeces ready for the next stage. Once the wool is removed, it is placed on sorting tables where stained parts or parts with plant remains are removed. It is then rolled up and packed into large bales, which will be sent to processing plants. Shearing not only produces high-quality wool, but also helps sheep to better withstand the summer heat, allowing their fleece to grow back before winter. The enormous bales of wool arrive at the washing and processing plants, where they are carefully opened to spread out the material. This allows for optimized cleaning and the removal of larger impurities. First, the wool passes through an opening machine, equipped with metal teeth and open grids. This system shakes and aerates the material, allowing the soil and finer particles to fall through. It also helps to separate fibers and reduce dirt before washing, saving water and energy. At this stage, workers visually inspect the wool to remove any visible contaminants before it continues its journey to the main washing area. Next, the wool is immersed in a series of vats of hot water at temperatures ranging from 77 to 82 degrees Celsius. A small amount of special soap is added to remove natural grease, lanolin, and other impurities. Each tank has a pressing system that reduces excess dirty water between stages. In addition, clean water flows from the last tub to the first, maintaining a closed and efficient circuit that allows operation 24 hours a day. The first 3 vats contain soapy water, which is responsible for removing grease. The last 3 are for the final rinse, which removes soap residue. Although you might think that more soap cleans better, actually using too much can damage the wool, leaving it with oily residue. That's why an exact balance is maintained between the amount of water, temperature and detergent. Upon reaching the 4th tank, the water is much clearer, and in the last one it is practically transparent, although still not potable. This phase leaves the wool completely free of grease and residue, ready for drying. After being washed, the wool goes into a large hot air dryer. The air, heated by steam, is propelled by powerful fans towards a rotating drum that constantly moves the wool, maximizing the drying surface. Unlike older flat systems, rotary drums allow for more uniform drying and take up less space. The wool moves up and down inside the drum, passing through up to 6 compartments that ensure it is completely dry. Upon exiting, it undergoes a final manual inspection, where operators remove fibers of a different color or small particles that may have remained. Then 2 dust removal machines take care of leaving it spotless before repackaging it. The wool, which initially arrived in dirty, compressed bales, is now transformed into a clean, soft and fluffy material, ready for its next transformation. In this phase, each bale is weighed and carefully analyzed. Its moisture and fat content is measured to ensure it meets international quality standards. Once approved, it is covered with a protective tarpaulin and moved to the warehouse, where it will await its final destination. When the wool arrives at the sorting house, meticulous work begins. The batches are separated according to their type, color, and fiber length, using precision scales that allow the exact amount to be prepared for each project. Sometimes producers mix different types of wool to achieve color or texture effects. For example, by combining natural white wool with dyed black wool, a heather grey tone is achieved that is highly valued in the textile industry. In addition, during sorting, the original volume of the fiber is recovered, which is usually somewhat compressed by the packaging. In this way, the wool returns to its fluffy appearance and is ready to move on to the next process. Carding is an essential step. Here, the wool passes through a series of rollers covered with metal bristles that comb, align and detangle it. On the last roller, which has finer combs, a continuous layer of wool is formed, which is divided into thin strips called strands. These strands pass through two rollers that stretch them and transform them into smooth, uniform threads, known as roving. This is the first step towards creating the yarn that will then be used for knitting. The strands are moved to the spinning area, where each one is twisted slightly to gain strength. By combining several strands and twisting them together, a fine, strong and elastic thread is obtained. Next, the threads go through the winding process, where they are carefully wound onto reels or cones, ready for their next destination, the loom. In the weaving phase, the threads are arranged in two main directions. The warp, which forms the base, with approximately 2,500 threads, and the weft, which interlaces perpendicularly to create the final design. The warp not only provides strength and structure, but also allows you to play with colors and create patterns such as stripes or checks. Once prepared, the warp is placed on the loom, where each thread passes through needles that move up and down, leaving space for the weft to cross precisely. In new projects, this step is done by hand, and it can take up to 2 days to prepare before starting the automatic weaving. Once on the loom, the fabric begins to take shape. Then it goes to an inspection area, where under a powerful light, it is thoroughly checked for any imperfections. If there are any flaws, they are corrected with scissors or tweezers, ensuring that the fabric is perfect. If the final fabric will have fringes or tassels, a section is left unwoven. These loose threads are braided and secured with a special thread so that after washing the fringes are well defined and long-lasting. In this stage, the fabric goes through a felting process where it is subjected to hot water and mechanical agitation. This causes the fibers to compact, creating a denser, warmer and more durable fabric. During felting, the pieces are also washed with mild detergents that soften the wool and remove any remaining residue. Sometimes additional treatments are applied to make it moth-resistant or even machine washable, something highly valued by modern consumers. When it comes to single-color blankets, the dyeing is done after weaving, allowing the shades to be adjusted according to fashion or customer requirements. After dyeing or felting, the fabric goes through a process called scarifying, very similar to carding, but applied to the surface of the finished cloth. A system of rollers with small spikes lifts the surface fibers, creating small air chambers that increase thermal insulation. Thus, the blankets are warmer, lighter and softer to the touch. In this culminating stage, the fabric, which has undergone so many processes, finally arrives at the garment factory, where its transformation into a finished product begins. Each roll of wool is carefully unwound onto large cutting tables, and with the help of precision patterns and molds, the lines that will define the final shape of each item are drawn. Depending on the design, the fabric is cut into pieces destined to become blankets, scarves, shawls, or various types of accessories. The cutting is done with specialized machines or high-precision scissors, guaranteeing clean and precise edges that will facilitate subsequent assembly. Once the pieces are separated, each one goes to the sewing and assembly area, where expert operators join the fragments using industrial fine-stitch machines. Here, invisible reinforcements are applied to the areas most prone to wear, ensuring that the seams withstand prolonged use without losing their shape or strength. The edges of each piece are finished with double stitching or decorative piping, depending on the type of garment. This detail not only enhances the aesthetic appearance, but also prevents fraying and increases the product's durability. Subsequently, brand labels, sizes, or fabric composition are added, applied with heat or stitching depending on the item. Before being packaged, the garments undergo rigorous final quality control. In this inspection, a specialized team evaluates the weight, texture, softness, color, seam uniformity, and fabric strength. If any imperfections are detected, the garment is returned to the alterations area to be corrected or, if necessary, replaced with a new one. Only items that meet all standards advance to the packaging stage. Each garment is carefully folded, protected with special paper or sleeves, and grouped into boxes ready for shipment. Thus, after a process that can extend for more than 10 days of continuous work, from the initial shearing to the final making, the wool becomes a finished product, soft, warm and durable, ready to accompany people in the coldest moments of the year. This is how a simple sheep fleece, the result of months of growth and the patient work of shepherds, manages to transform into a warm, elegant garment that is resistant to the passage of time. Each strand, which once protected an animal from the cold, goes through a sequence of processes that combine artisanal tradition and cutting-edge technology. From the precise shearing, the washing that removes impurities without damaging the fiber, the combing and spinning that order and strengthen each filament, to the final weaving where the soft texture that we all recognize is born. In this journey, which begins in the green fields of New Zealand and ends in modern industrial looms, wool becomes a symbol of balance between nature and human engineering. Each step requires knowledge, patience, and respect for natural resources, demonstrating that even in the age of synthetic materials, natural fibers remain irreplaceable for their warmth, breathability, and durability. More than just a material, wool represents an ancestral legacy, a living connection between human beings, the earth, and the animals that inhabit it.